Brightness, overall brightness. That's all I'm talking about.
Overall brightness.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. All right, we're live.
Hey, everybody. Welcome into the kitchen. Good to see everybody here. Hey, Lois. Hi, Andy, Ray, and Hasmek, and Mike. Really good to see everybody. I messaged folks a little while ago. Oh, and Frank, hello, Frank, that I'm sick, so I ain't bringing the energy. So you guys have to bring the energy. I do have something I want to test, but let's just quick say hi. Mike, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, sir. And how was the week?
You know what? Can't complain. The week was okay. I every day I've thought about using Zoom Docs,
And
and every day I've thought about using Zoom Docs.
right, which is take two, right?
Right. So
And you pushed it off, and again, and again.
yeah. Ray, how's the studio coming?
It's not, and as you can tell, for some reason, I'm 4-3 instead of 16-9, so I'm bouncing back and forth.
No, you're 16-9 to me.
I was 4-3 a second ago. Not
Oh,
sure.
really?
Maybe Mike fixed it. Studio is still echo, still new house.
Yeah.
Haven't got everything put together yet, but it will. Just been too busy. Good busy though.
Well, good bit. We'll take good busy. That's good. Lois, how are you?
Well, I'm okay now.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, the internet was out for quite a while, and it just came back on about 3 minutes before the show. So
It's like the gods. were
they
watching
wanted me
over.
here,
They
you know?
wanted you here. Absolutely. Hello, Mr. Gajar, Mr. Hasmuk. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Thank God, I'm doing really well. It's good to see you over there. Is that your sort of your three-season porch you got there? I love those windows in the back.
Yeah, and I've got this
Oh my
fireplace
gosh.
going. Yeah.
Wow. Is that wood
So,
burning? That's beautiful.
yeah, it's wood. Yeah, it's wood, and I think it's a Danish or Swedish fireplace called
IKEA.
Morsel,
Oh,
M-O-R-S-O.
very nice.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Hello,
the
Mr.
workhorse.
Andy,
Howdy.
the
How's it going?
workhorse. Absolutely. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
Hey, Andy and I were both on a chat earlier today about that bug with the local record, Andy. I
Yeah,
wonder if
that's
anyone here has heard anything about that. Do you all remember this? So apparently, what is it? Is in the SDK or the API? I don't know the difference.
yeah, I think it's the SDK causes an issue if you're trying to local record and I think in your if you're live streaming, I forget, it doesn't record your local audio. It records
Right.
guests, but not local.
If you're using one of these third-party implementations, vMix or Ecamm, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not happening in Mimo Live and vMix. It's definitely happening in Ecamm, where your audio, the audio of the person joining through Ecamm, it's just not there. Everyone can hear it. In the cloud recording, it's there, but in the local record, it's not there. Very weird. We sent this over a while back, but I don't know if anything's happened.
Andy, can you up your sound a little bit? It's really hard to hear
Oh,
you.
is that any better?
Yeah,
Any
thank
better there? Okay. Yep.
Nice background, by the way.
You like that one?
I like the branding. That's nice. Frank, sir, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Now, is it a safe assumption, or am I completely off base that you actually did play with Zoom Docs only because you were posting a whole bunch of information about it?
I haven't played with it much. I've been reading
Yeah.
about it. I went to a Zoom meeting with a bunch of people from Zoom and got some information from them and a little demo.
Oh, that's great. Okay, cool. So for
Um,
those of you who didn't see, do you mind if can I share it? Just what you
oh yeah,
posted?
do whatever you want.
So there were actually two interesting things. The first is that in an upcoming release in September, perhaps, it's currently an internal beta, there will be a print option from Zoom Docs. You know what, let me change this. There'll be a print option. And also it looks like Zoom Docs will be getting templates meeting agenda, meeting minutes, project status report, action item tracker, decision log, all makes sense to me. And export and save is also on the upcoming roadmap later this year. Looks like.
And a VPAT.
And a who what?
That's higher education talk. It's a document that tells you about accessibility for any
Oh.
technology, I guess.
So that's coming later this year also? We don't have that yet?
Sooner, I think, than the end of the year, but they couldn't be specific about when. But in education, if something doesn't have a VPAT, there's a good chance we won't use it because we don't know if screen readers can read the information. We don't know how people with disabilities can access the technology. So it's a document that explains how they address all that.
Is it strange that Zoom Docs would be released before they had that in place?
I mean, if they're trying to get some people to kick the tires, because maybe they were testing and they thought, well, it seems pretty good. Maybe we'll let people try it in the real world. But I don't think too many schools would turn it on without knowing how it's going to interact with people with accessibility issues.
Gotcha. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that I did turn on the back end authentication. Is that what it's called? Authentication for this meeting for all of the PMI meetings. And we still have someone in the waiting room who is trying to disrupt our meeting. So we tried.
Dealt with it.
I'm sorry. Oh, no, I know.
How do you know they're disrupting if they're still in the waiting room?
Because they're chatting to us.
I had a discussion with the person, Lois.
Okay.
Did you actually go into the waiting room, Mike?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Did it
was
via
a
chat.
A chat discussion, yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting because the person came in as one name that we didn't recognize
Right.
with a picture, came back with another name, same picture.
Oh, did they? I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
Really?
same picture.
Wow.
Kind of gave it away. Mike handled it very well.
Yeah. Mike always does. Hey, Dan, how are you? I don't know if you're able to unmute, but hello. Dan Huber's here.
I'm here. I'm working in the background.
Good to see you, sir. All right. Can I bring up my question? So I worked with two folks this week, who were frustrated with the resolution that they were getting in Zoom. Okay. For what it's worth, by the way, on Monday night in extra hours, I asked, because one of the questions was, what if Zoom is sending out 1080p and YouTube is sending out 1080p, why would the YouTube stream look better than the Zoom stream? And I asked that in extra hours, and Alex answered, and I'd never thought of this. It's a fascinating answer. He said that the issue is not buffering, but lag, latency. I'm not sure what the proper word is, but with YouTube, there's a 15-second delay between what I send and what people see. Zoom has to get it down to milliseconds, and because of that can, even a 1080p feed, that can scrunch it a little bit. So here's my question though. In the process of doing all of this and working with people, I found something really weird. Now, I always assumed, here's what I tell people. I say, turn on HD in the back end, turn it on in your app, make sure everything is full screen, make sure that you don't have, if you're on a 1080 plan, make sure no one in there is using a phone or whatever. Make sure at least one participant is asking for HD so they also are in speaker view and have it full screen. Like I walked through all of that. But then, in a meeting with someone, why am I not getting, I know why. In a meeting with someone, I opened up my statistics, and the video, what I was receiving was changing, not based on my main Zoom window, but on my secondary Zoom window. So by way of example, so here you can see I've got my, it's down here at the bottom, right? My statistics. And right now I'm sending 1080 and I'm receiving 1080. Now this is my main monitor, Zoom over here. And this is, let me bring it over, my secondary monitor right here. Now, look what just happened. You see how that happened? So nothing happened when I moved so what I did here, by the way, just for reference, I had both of these on their own monitor, full screen, okay? And then I moved them to this monitor so I could show them to you. And obviously you can see that they're just, a quarter, if not less of the screen. So now keep an eye over here on my receive. If I bring this back over here, actually, let me do it this way. If I bring this back over here and I make it full screen again, see how it jumped up? My main Zoom window is still here. So the size of your main Zoom window is not what impacts the receiving video if you're using dual monitor mode. It's the secondary monitor.
But once your secondary has pumped it up, then the main one isn't going to make any change. Your example doesn't make sense to me.
So my question was, when I tell people, here's how to deliver the best quality, what I usually tell them is make sure that somebody who's watching has their Zoom window full screen and in speaker mode so that they're requesting the highest quality. What I never thought about is if you're using dual monitor mode, which of the two Zoom monitors should be the one that you do full screen? I always assumed that it was the first one. And in fact, the reason I figured this out is because this monitor where I have my secondary, let me just so you all can see. So this is where I usually have my main Zoom window. It's a Elgato prompter, and actually it can't, the resolution on here, I just realized the other day stinks. But this is a 1080p, I have it set to 1080p monitor, and this is, you can see I have my secondary monitor here. If I move this, the quality is going to go down drastically. And
Hey,
again, you can
David.
see that. Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
I just tested and I brought what you're calling the main one
Yeah.
over to my and full screen that one in speaker mode, and it brought it up to 1920 by 1080. for
But
me.
are you using dual monitor mode?
Yeah, I just turned on dual monitor. So again, now it's kind of pointless because the dual monitor one, I always get the speaker view on the dual monitor.
Right.
But if I take the main one that I can choose and bring that over to speaker view and bring it full screen, I get the 1920 by 1080 also.
All right, so let me try this. So I'm going to leave this one here, which brought it down, as you can see, to like 360 or something like that. And now I'm going to bring the main one again up to this main monitor here, and I'll just make it full screen. So now it's full screen, and my quality is still the same.
I don't
But as
see a
soon
full
as I-
screen on you, on what you're
No,
showing us, though.
you don't see it, but you'll have to take my word for it that it's there. It's right up there. I've got you full screen right now. I've got
What's the
main-
resolution of your so-called main monitor?
Crappy.
What's its
The
native resolution?
I don't know.
The
But
official
let me try this.
teleprompter, if you're talking the Elgato prompter, it's a 1024 by 600.
All right, so let me try this. Now I'm bringing it to my secondary monitor. Let me make it full screen here. Oh, now it brought it up. Okay. Thank you, Frank. So that clears it up. So the answer is I can't use this monitor anymore. The answer, because it's just too low quality. But what's interesting is that either of the monitors, so I can still receive 1080p, even though this monitor up here is not great quality, right? Even though this is only 1024, as long as I have my secondary monitor, let me pull it over. As long as I have my secondary monitor on a 1080p screen, full screen, then I'm going to receive 1080.
Correct. Yeah, it looks like it's either one. So if it's the main one or the secondary one, as long as something is in full screen in speaker mode, it does it.
Sounds like a hardware limitation.
I agree. The thing for me, the thing that I didn't realize, I guess, was sorry, I'm on the wrong, was that it could be either screen. That was the new thing to me, is that it doesn't have to be, if you're using dual monitor mode, it doesn't have to be your main Zoom screen that's full screen. It essentially, either screen will affect your receive resolution.
But only to the size of the screen.
Correct.
If you've got a tiny screen, then it's not going to get there.
I'm not sure it's about tiny as much as it's about resolution, because this is I mean, this little field vision I've got here is like an 8-inch screen, but it's 1080p. So, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm experimenting as you're experimenting, and officially when let me do this now properly. When you were showing to me just now, and I've got basically the similar configuration because I'm using my Elgato prompter now that I'm using here now too. And that is now officially, I am in dual monitor mode now, and I'm fairly new to dual monitor mode as well. So I'm watching right now, and again, myself, because I'm sending myself and I'm coming back as myself. But what I noticed was if it depends on the view of the other monitor. Now, the two monitors, just for my sake, one I classify as my control panel monitor, and one is the monitor that just has the actual video. So that's my differentiation between the two. So what you're using, David, on the prompter is what I'm probably using on the prompter as well, which is just the video that has no GUI interface of the buttons. Correct?
No. In my
You're actually
prompter, I've got the main window, the main Zoom window, which has the GUI at the bottom.
Oh, okay. You're doing
And then
it that way. Okay,
Exactly.
I've switched.
I'm doing it reverse. Exactly. Right. And the reason I do it that way is because I want 9 times out of 10, I want the gallery view in front of my camera. And you can't do that.
Okay.
I mean, you can,
Right.
but it's a wonky workaround.
Okay, because what I did notice is that if you flip it, I was able to get 1080p on both.
On the Elgato prompter monitor?
It did not affect my receive. I
No,
was
but
able
the-
to get
the monitor
1080p send and see. See, I'm sending right now because I'm sending myself.
Right, but that's
Everybody's
because
looking at me at 1080p. Right now, I'm receiving 720p back, except for when it's me talking. When it's me talking, I'm down on 144 because it doesn't need. It's sending myself back to me, so it's not actually needing to do that.
Right.
So right now, my receive, because it's myself talking, I'm down to 144.
I have a question, you guys. I'm sorry. When I'm talking, then my screen, my video size should go up, shouldn't it?
and it did. You're at 10, you're coming in at 1080.
Coming in,
To us.
but okay,
Yeah, David,
I
to
see.
us,
Okay,
not
so
to
I was in multi-speaker mode, so that it was a smaller size window than if I was in just speaker mode, because then I would be the
Exactly.
full size window, and
Exactly.
boy, that's confusing. So you have to basically log in with a second machine and put it on full size and leave it running in the background, and then everybody will have the biggest they can get, right?
Yeah, that's the part of this that I think really frustrates folks, is that what we're able to send out isn't dependent, like it's not dependent on us. It's dependent on our audience. And I understand why they did that. I understand if no one's asking for HD, then why bother sending it? I just so yeah, that's, I guess, the workaround is to just log in with a second. The problem I have is that I'm already logging in with every meeting with 3 computers. I don't have any more.
But if no one is looking at it large, then your resolution isn't a problem,
Fair enough.
right?
Well, right. So,
So
yes.
what you worrying about, man?
Well, it's not me. I'm fine. I'm sleeping fine. Maybe you're right. If no one's asking for that, then what's the problem? But people seem to think it's a problem.
Right now, David.
Well, if
to
you
the other-
if you record, that's an ask. I believe recording at full screen would be asking at full screen, and therefore you would have better resolution, right?
I don't know. That's a good question.
However, if I add you in Ecamm or some other program like ISO, it's gonna request your screen to be, or your resolution to be full then too.
Right.
So,
But
yeah.
in when you do a record, whether it's local or cloud,
It's recording what you're
that-
seeing.
Is that, no, no, the stream, see, Frank, he just has all the answers. He just.
What did he
found-
say? He didn't say
He
anything.
didn't say anything. He just found the thing, and now I have to.
Oh, this comes up all the time. So I had an inkling we would go there, so I went and got it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, he found the resolution of recorded videos. We actually looked at this. Local recording, 2 or more participants, camera HD not enabled. If 2 or more participants were there.
You're not sharing.
Yeah, I know.
Mean guy.
No, I'm sorry. Let me copy it and do it over here. Oops. Boom, ba-dum, boom, boom.
And spotlighting.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. All right, here we go.
And zooming.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too. So by the way, so for what it's worth right now, I'm sending 1080p. And so what that means is that someone over there, when I sent us into Spotlight, someone left it. Someone didn't change, like at least one person left it in speaker view. And it also means no one here is on a phone, a tablet, or a browser. So 2 or more participants, video turned on. Local, there's no HD. Oh no, sorry. I'm not sure how to read this.
So
I
basically
see.
what it's saying
Go ahead.
is one of the components that no one ever considers is that the amount of participants in your meeting affects the recording quality.
Mhm.
Can you help me read this? Do you read it
Sure.
across
So
from left to right?
yeah,
I just
yeah.
don't-
So if you do the first column, it tells you it tells you the conditions for local recordings, and it'll tell you on the very right-hand column what resolution will be coming out. And the middle one does the same thing for cloud recordings.
So we can basically ignore the first one because that says Group HD is not turned on. And anyone who's thinking,
yeah,
about
yeah,
this is
you're never going to
okay.
get HD if you don't have Group HD, right? So for local recordings, if you have one participant, video's turned on, your camera is HD compatible. Over here it says 720 by 1280 by 720. These are all the conditions that will give you that. If you
So-
scroll down,
Wait a
okay, or
second.
ask your question.
Sorry, I'm confused. So does this mean where it says, okay, if there's only one person in the meeting, let's say you just start a
Yep.
meeting because you wanted to record something,
Yep.
like before we had clips or whatever.
You're recording yourself, yeah.
Right. So as long as you have HD on, then you'll get 720p. As soon as you add a second participant, the participant view
That's right.
has to be in full screen.
You are correct, sir.
Participant view, what is that? Just the other person
Someone's pulling the video at full screen.
in full screen. Okay. And then it says, but look at cloud recording, gallery view up to 20. So if you have up to 25 people, because cloud recording, you can say record speaker view.
Yep.
So
You
I
can do
assume
that
that's-
independently of the
Right.
gallery view.
Right. Okay. And then, so now we've got this one.
So this is the requirements to get to 1080p.
Right.
Which should be the same.
No,
Well, pretty much.
Group HD enabled is for 3 or more participants. That was different, isn't it?
No. Group HD enabled up on both. The only difference here is you've got full HD enabled. And for 3 or more no, it's exactly the same. Yeah, there's no reason why it should be any different. Because again, Zoom is only sending one HD feed. So whether it's 720 or 1080, it has the same requirements. So
Then what's the difference? Why would it have one at one time and another at another time?
because you can only get 1080 if you're on a business or ed or
I think the column with cloud recording is different. In the first column, a row, I guess I should say, it says Group HD,
yeah,
and in this and
full
then
HD.
full HD. There's the difference.
Yeah.
That's why they repeated it, because there's a difference for cloud recording.
Exactly. So, okay, so now maybe I've always been saying to folks, that as the presenter, you should have your Zoom windows full screen. But it sounds like that doesn't matter. What matters is the person who's receiving it and that their window is full screen.
Both of you are participants, so either should be okay.
I didn't follow that.
You are a participant in the meeting. Therefore, if you have a full screen or some other participant has a full screen, there's still a participant with full screen.
Yeah. No, I guess what I was saying is when I've been meeting with folks, I've just been telling them that one of the elements to getting the highest quality full HD or even 720 is making sure that not only the recipient has it full screen, but also that the sender has it full screen. And apparently that's not necessary.
What this says is anybody, if anybody has full screen.
Oh, wait a second. No, it says host. Oh, it says host and any participant.
For 3 or more.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so, what does that mean? So if there are 3 or more participants, the host and a participant has to have it in view in full screen?
Well, let's try it. This is a test kitchen.
That's really interesting.
There's one other interesting nugget in there. In the local recording, it says video gallery view greater than 25.
Yeah.
And in the cloud recording, it says gallery view up to 25.
How does that work? That seems like a contradiction.
You know, Zoom has made mistakes in their documentation before, so I don't know
Sure.
if I trust this or don't trust this.
Well, isn't that a choice that you have personally, whether your gallery view is going to be showing only 25 or showing 40 something or?
It's sort of a choice and it's sort of a hardware limitation. Some computers don't have the processor to do 49. So it's a choice that's made for you, I guess I would say.
I was reading this though as the number of people in your gallery, not that setting on the back end, 25 versus 49. Am I wrong about that?
I thought it was the view, the gallery view.
Oh, well, why
But-
wouldn't it just say, well, okay.
You can click on it I don't know if it'll help explain it more, but I'm
Yes.
interpreting it as though your computer's set to gallery view up to 25. But maybe it's not. It doesn't say participant amount,
Adjusting your
25.
video layout. No, you're right. I think this is just about, yeah.
Because when you have 49 participants in your gallery view, that's more bandwidth than if you have 25 participants in your.
Sure.
But they're also smaller pictures.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it's bit budgeting. Like you only get 30 megs for the whole thing. So if you have 25 participants versus 49, you're budgeting differently, right?
Okay,
I'll,
so
I'll
how do we,
explain
But
that.
the number
I'll
of-
explain, yeah, I'll explain that a little more in what Frank was just talking about when it comes to the 30 megabit scenario. So the easiest way to think of it, Lois, is this way: is basically that each individual feed is X amount of bandwidth, right? So the more feeds you have up, the more Zoom will now offer to you each feed. Now, again, it's going to do its best to lower the bit rate of each individual feed so that you could actually see more. But again, there is always going to be that, as Frank was saying, the cap of 30 megabit per second at max, no matter how many video, in this case, it looks like it's going to be 25 per the doc, will be able to be 1080p.
This
Oh,
is a
damn.
kitchen. Let's use a kitchen analogy. You have one pizza and you're going to serve 25 people a slice. The slices are going to be pretty thin, but they're small. But I mean, then you try to slice it for 49, you're going to have less pizza per person, right? So that's a bad.
Right, which is my point, that each window will have fewer pixels required to create the image. Your entire screen has the same number of pixels required to make the whole thing, but per person is smaller. Doesn't Zoom just send you less so that you don't have to throw away so many bits?
I don't know that resolution equals bits. I'm not sure that bits are determinate. on resolution? That's an interesting question, Lois. Like, what is it? Just, I mean, Zoom is sending the same number of the same resolution no matter what. It's your screen. It's not how many cameras are in there. So I don't think resolution is the issue. I don't know how to explain it, but can we try this? So all right. So I'm in. If people want to open up their statistics, so I'm right now in. There are more than 3 people here. Oh, this is for recording, so this isn't going to work. Sorry. I thought this was for in the meeting.
Well, I mean, the way you could test this, not live, but the way you could test this is you could record the same scenario twice and then use media info and see what the bit rate is on each recording, the local and the cloud.
If someone would like to record, you're welcome to. Okay. So I'm going back here. Oh,
I'm
there's
sure
my
Zoom
back.
has all these statistics on the back end. Like they
Yeah.
know how it works.
Is there
I am recording.
why is it that one person gets to ruin the whole meeting? Like why is it that, sorry, not you, Mike. No. Why is it that if one person joins via a browser or a phone, like a phone, let's just use a phone. These phones can accept 1080p streams, can't they? Why does that shut it down to 720? Hey, Ray. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good.
Congratulations, by the way. Sorry, let's just 3 years of community. Is it 3 years? Is that what it is?
3 years, 3-year anniversary of the Zoom community. Yes.
And there was Ray, top left. Amazing, just amazing. So in any case, that's my question. Why does one person get to determine the resolution for everyone? I don't know if anyone has an answer to that.
To be honest, I hear different things from different people from Zoom, and I'm not really sure that anybody really understands the entire big picture. But hearing what I hear, there are decisions made all along sort of the path from my computer to your computer, and some of that decision is made in the Zoom server before it goes, wait a minute, I've got 8 users here who are looking at video. Let me optimize what I'm doing so that everybody has a good experience. And so what I thought at one point was, if you're looking at a gallery of 49, you get a very tiny bandwidth per image. If someone else is looking at a gallery view of 25, their bandwidth is a little higher and resolution is a little higher per image. And if I've got somebody pinned, or if I've got, let's say, the new workplace app with the kind of the who are we going to position kind of in that upper half where their images are a little larger, I'll get a different image. And I thought the Zoom server was smart enough to like send the right image to the right person. And someone from Zoom told me, no, that's not the case. It tries to determine the best possible image for everybody, and that's the image that it sends. So I don't know that I believe that, but that's what I've been told.
If you've got someone pinned or spotlighted and they're taking up your whole screen, you're going to want the biggest image you can get. But if I've got 49 things on it, if Zoom sends my client on my computer 49 images that are huge, or rather 48 images that aren't so huge, but the one you've got pinned is huge, then somewhere in my computer on the Zoom app or somewhere, it's going to have to shrink it down. Because I can't believe that it's going to try and stick a 1080p image in one of those little tiny squares. So somewhere it's got to be compressing.
Well, it's I mean, it is. So right now I'm in, so you can see I'm receiving 1080p. If I were to switch to gallery view, that's going to jump down. Oh, no, it's not. Interesting. Sorry.
Well, my gallery view right now is on the receive side, 320 by 180.
Right. But so are you using dual monitor mode?
Nope.
Yeah. So that's why. So that's why that's very interesting. I'm in gallery view, but because I've got that second Zoom monitor up and full screen, the receive stays at 1080, even though I'm looking at gallery view.
But I don't think that really means you're getting 1080 for every image that's coming to you.
No, it means I'm getting 1080 for the speaker, the active speaker who's down on the second monitor. Oh no,
Right.
absolutely. Right. The resolution of the gallery is the resolution of the gallery. Absolutely.
Right.
I just assumed that if I changed to gallery but I forgot about that second monitor. Boy, that's a new reason to use dual monitor mode so that you can stay in gallery view but still receive 1080 or 720, whatever people are sending by having that second monitor. Sorry, Lois, go ahead.
Muted. Lois, you're muted.
Thank you. Question on looking at the statistics. I have send and it says 1080 by 720, and then receive, now it's down to 256 by 144, and I am full screen. Well, I'm the speaker view on my Zoom meeting. I don't
Looking
get
at
why it's
yourself?
so small. Yeah, I was until you
Right.
talked.
So the receive is I think excluding you.
It jumped up.
Yeah.
It jumped up. It jumped up,
because
Lois.
I was the speaker.
Okay, so the receive is for whichever of the people is sending the largest signal,
No.
regardless of who they are.
No.
No.
It's
I
whoever is speaker, whoever you have either pinned or spotlighted or just an active speaker. If you have that full screen, and unless it's you, if you're the active speaker, then it's not going to, because why does Zoom need to send you your own feed at HD? But whoever else shows up in there, it will send the highest of whatever they're sending in. Is that right, Ray?
Yeah, that's the nuance I was going for, is that if Lois wants to see her own picture full screen and nobody else has her pinned or looking at her large on their screen, Lois, you'll see the send to be fairly small because that's all we really need to do to get you in our gallery. But as soon as someone pins you, your send will pop up to, in my case, I'm seeing 1920 by 1080, and that might be David or it might be you, or both, because I've got the multi-view, multi-speaker mode on, and I've got David in the upper left and Lois in the upper right, and then the gallery view down below.
So
Yeah,
if
David, what I was noticing again when I was explaining my setup here is that's what I was noticing what Lois saw, which was when you guys see me, I'm sending out either 720, if not 1080p, and when I'm getting back is only because it is me, I'm only getting back 1 by 144, which means that Zoom recognizes that I'm sending myself to myself and recognizes that I'm talking and also I'm sending it back to myself. So they're using very little bandwidth at that particular point.
doesn't that just mean that everybody else in the room is in gallery view and nobody has the multi-view on, nobody has you pinned? Because otherwise they'd be sending something bigger.
That one I don't know. I do know that now that I am talking, I'm staring at my stats. That's why I'm looking to the left here. And as I keep talking, I'm sending, oh, there I was 720. Now I'm officially now 1080.
We're
And
getting a little confused between send and receive. So what you send, you don't see.
Right.
Right? You only see what you receive. And
Right.
so if you are full screen, and then presumably you will receive the highest quality. When you're speaking, if you have, so for example, I turn off show me as active speaker. I have no interest in seeing myself. So I turn that off, which is a little frustrating because what it does is it sticks on the last person to speak. Like right now I'm staring at, and don't get me wrong, you're beautiful, but I'm staring at Lois, even though she's not saying anything, which I find that a little frustrating. But, and now it says I'm sending and receiving 1080p. But that's because you guys, someone over there is requesting 1080 from me, and I'm requesting 1080 from you.
You're requesting it from me because you're seeing me full screen.
I'm requesting it from everyone in the, well,
No.
yes. Sorry.
That's
I'm
why
re-
I'm seeing that I'm sending 1080.
Right.
So that doesn't
If
make
someone else were to speak, if Mike were to speak now, you'll drop down and he'll go up because he will replace you on this this secondary monitor down here. Go ahead and say something, Mike.
Hello.
So now he's here. You're gonna go down, and he just popped up because now I'm asking for him. We all actually, well, anyone who has a secondary monitor over is requesting him at 1080 at the highest resolution.
So can we do an experiment here and ask everyone to be in gallery view? And that means that everybody should be sending and receiving 320 by 180.
Yep.
Right?
It's a great idea.
Everybody?
No, sorry, that won't work.
Why?
Because if you're using
Because of
dual
your
monitor
second
mode,
monitor.
exactly. If you're using dual monitor mode, it's still going to, I can turn that off, but it's still going to request the full feed, right? Right. Huh.
Okay. So what I was going to suggest is that we try it and everybody in gallery view, see what we all get on statistics, try it everybody in multi-speaker view, which should be a little bit bigger. That should be like the 640, right?
So I'm going to turn off my second monitor. Okay, so that's off, and now I'm just in gallery view.
Oh, sorry, I have to turn off my pin. There we go.
Yes, so right now, oh no, I'm still sending 1080. Someone's still requesting 1080 from me. By the way, when we're done with this, I'd like to know what packet loss means. Now,
Sure.
now I'm down to 360 send and 180 receive. Yeah, Andy is too. Yep. So there you go.
But if you're
Yeah.
in gallery, you don't need to be any more than that, right?
Right. That's exactly what you said before, Lois. In this, looking at it this way, you don't need anything more than that, right?
And as soon as Roland pinned me, I sent full HD.
So there's stuff going on in the chat that people aren't hearing on YouTube because there's sad stuff happening.
Wait, can I just, sorry, let me just interrupt for a moment. I didn't think about this before. What you just said, Andy, my understanding was that if anyone is requesting high def, then everyone gets it.
Right. So I think that
But
was
that's
the
not
case.
true.
I was seeing that I was only sending the real small resolution because I wasn't speaking and no one had me pinned. But as soon as Roland pinned me, I started sending 1080.
But I didn't receive 1080 is what I'm saying. Only Roland
Correct.
receives 1080.
Correct. Only where 1080 is needed and the sender will function at that level.
So
Okay.
again, for me, that begs the question, why is Zoom restricted to only sending one HD feed? If it's sending multiple feeds right now, it's sending 320, it's sending 1080, it's depending on whether you're pinned or in gallery or whatever.
What's the
Ray-
question?
Ray, didn't
Just
you say?
why can they only send one HD feed? right? Why is it 720 or 1080 and not just both?
But
I'm guessing somewhere in the engine there's a limitation in
Yeah.
the video engine, because it's fairly easy to compress an image down to 180 or something like that. But once you get up in the upper registers, then the higher resolution is many more bits that have to be processed by their graphics card, and you don't want to be doing 720 and 1080 at the same time, because that's a lot of bandwidth.
But Ray, didn't someone just say that Andy was sending and Roland was receiving the higher quality and everybody else wasn't?
Someone's coming in to fix this for us, guys.
What? Oh, Andy, thank God. Have you been listening to all this stuff?
Y'all gonna make me nuts.
Andy can't type fast enough to correct us.
Oh, no, it's good. You guys it's actually interesting to watch, how you're proving these things out in the meeting, which is the fun of the kitchen. David, did you just like get possessed? What happened?
It's the wrong button. Sorry.
No, all good, all good. Yeah, so right at that last point there, right before I joined, you hit on something really important, which is that we're simultaneously encoding multiple resolutions at a time, which is why to Lois's earlier question, you're not taking the 1080p that Mike requested on his screen and then squashing it down to small thumbnail size in your 49-person gallery view, because let's say it's David's computer is encoding a thumbnail size video feed, a 360p video feed, and a HD video feed. And then up in the cloud, the HD feed goes to Mike, the thumbnail feed goes to you. If Frank's in gallery view, the 360p feed goes to him, right? And it gets sent out to the people who request it based on what they request. Now, if nobody is requesting one of those steps on the ladder, your computer doesn't need to encode it. So your sending statistics don't report that you're sending 1080p if you're not encoding a 1080p video feed because nobody is requesting a 1080p video feed. And to David's question about why is it that when a cellular device joins, like a mobile phone or an iPad or something along those lines, why does the same thing not continue to happen there? It's because there's a practical limit, especially at the higher resolutions, of how many simultaneous video feeds your computer can encode, right? So 720 and 1080p at the same time, imagine rendering two videos at the same time at both of those resolutions and the load that would put on your computer. Now imagine trying to do that from a 5-year-old, 10-year-old device, right? And imagine kind of the stepping that takes place there. There are some exceptions to this as well that involve cases like Production Studio, where there is an ability to do that in webinar use cases. But for general meetings, right, the choice to go to 720 when the mobile device joins is because the mobile device is constrained to receiving the 720p feed. So now you have the choice of encoding 1080p or 720p, and you do the one that everybody can see.
I guess
otherwise the mobile device would have to drop to 360p because it wouldn't be able to receive any HD feed at that point.
My question was, why can phones only get 720?
So there's more factors. So like processing power, right? Like probably is there, but now you got to think about what if you're on a metered cellular connection? What if you're on battery? What if you're on any of these other conditions that can affect the performance of that device? And then Zoom becomes the power hog, or Zoom eats up all your bandwidth, right? And all of that stuff because it's doing that. So processing power wise, yeah, probably most modern phones should be able to do that. But also it's not to speak of every device that's out there, right? There could be a 8-year-old Android phone, right, sitting out there that has a last generation chip that we still want to be able to provide the 720p experience without dropping it all the way down to the 360p experience. And again, all of this is like experimentally determinable, so I'm not giving any inside information here, but it's just hard to set up all the conditions, right, to test all these things. So,
right.
And again, that's why like ZoomISO is such an interesting application, because it lets you pick on a drop-down list each step in the ladder and view what you end up getting. And I don't know if you've ever tried this, but if you take ZoomISO and you request 360p from everybody, but then in the Zoom meeting window, you pin somebody and make them really large, you always get the largest out of the different places in the app where you subscribe to video, which is why at the beginning of the meeting, when you took your multi-display and you had that one window that was larger than your gallery view, you were receiving at the higher resolution because it was full screen on the higher resolution display. But if you swapped it, right, and you had brought it to your other window and it was now proportionally smaller on the resolution of that display, none of your video tiles were large enough to request HD in that situation, right? So it's always trying to give you what you can actually see there. And the exception is ZoomISO and other apps like it that allow a developer to programmatically say, I want this resolution. And if that far end can send it to you, it will send it to you in that case, right? So the benefit of the app is that it gives you the ability not to have to worry about all these rules and conditions and just say, in this case, this is what I want. Give me the thing that I'm asking you for. I see, Ray, you've got your hand.
Wow.
Yeah, Andy, I just want to confirm something that I think that I heard, and if I heard it right, I want to reiterate it for everybody because it's the sort of thing that I don't know we think about too often. I think you said that the thumbnail image and the gallery view image and if requested the HD image are all generated at the source computer, and all three of those are sent to Zoom, and Zoom doesn't really have to do anything with them other than send them out to the recipients, the appropriate recipients. And so that to me, reinforces some of the things that I thought I knew and denies some of the things that I thought I knew as well.
There are edge cases like cloud recording, right? Where the cloud recording is actually going to take those media streams and compose them into a single video file in the cloud, right? And it may, decimate or do other things at that point in order to create that file, right? But generally speaking, it's routing in the cloud the video feeds that are encoded on your computer to other computers.
And it's the reason I think that when we're studying this statistics screen, that you'll see your send as maybe 540, and then you'll know that someone says, okay, well, I just pinned you, and it still looks like it's sending 540, but then in a second or two it says 1080. So the word has to get from the receiving system through Zoom back to your computer. Hey, look, someone's requesting 1080. Can you start sending 1080 now?
Yep.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of switching going on, but they're really at the edges, not really in the Zoom server.
Exactly. Right. Cool. And that request for most people is handled automatically, right, by what they're viewing and what they're viewing it on, right? And that doesn't even begin to get into what is your internet connection, right? Like, so maybe you're requesting it at a large size, but we've made a determination that actually you can't receive that right now because you're dropping every other packet that we try to send you, right? So we've got to make some choice, and that's where loss and jitter and all that stuff comes in to help us make an informed determination. Same thing would be true if you, and this is, again, something independently verifiable with ZoomISO. Say you've got, 16 incoming video feeds and you're melting your CPU right now. You're not going to get 1080p. You're going to go in timeout for a bit and you're going to get 360p until your CPU can, recover. And then we'll start bumping you up again and seeing, how to keep you under that 85% threshold on resource utilization so that you can have a consistent experience. So there's all these different factors, right, that go into that. Yeah.
But your CPU and your bandwidth, that doesn't affect what you're able to send. It affects what you're able to receive. Is that correct?
It could also affect what you're able to send, right? If your internet connection's bad, right, or you're on Wi-Fi and you can't get a packet up there, it's not going to get to anybody because that's going to impact your sender side. If you're melting your CPU, you might not be able to encode the video feed that you need to encode at HD. So it can affect both directions. It's kind of, but it's a matrix of different behaviors together. And again, like, this is, if our guidance to video producers was that you had to understand all of these things in order to be able to get HD video working, it would be chaos, right? Which is why it's so important that vMix and Ecamm and ZoomISO and all of them make this logic explicitly clear so that you can cut through all this behavior and just get down to the video feed that you want to receive to do your show.
And David, you might want to ask Andy about packet loss. Did you?
Well,
Yeah,
can
I
we
will.
finish
But
this first?
let me get Lois in. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Lois.
So, so Andy, I think I understand what you're saying, and some of the terminology is a little over my head, but I think what I heard you say was phones don't have as much brain power as a computer does, and therefore they can't handle doing as much as a computer does, and that's why they're different.
Well, that's one reason why they're different, but
Okay.
they've actually gotten quite good in the past couple of years. Now you go back long enough and then that absolutely would be a limitation, but then you still have other limits that you have to think about. Your battery life, right? If the processor in your phone is working really hard, it's using a lot of battery, and that, could cause the duration of the time that you can be on the call to be shorter than you want it to be. Or maybe you pay for bandwidth from your cellular provider, right? You only get a couple of gigabytes a month from your cellular carrier. And if Zoom eats all that up in one call, you're not going to be happy, right? Because you're going to be paying quite a bit for that bandwidth. So there's multiple factors, right? But that's one of them for sure.
Two more questions. The first one is, here I sit, I had internet problems, so I used my phone as a hotspot, and I'm connected to this meeting from my computer through the phone as a hotspot out to the world. There's no restrictions on what I'm doing because this is just a pass-through, right?
Right. You have defeated our attempt to save you from racking up a lot of bandwidth on your cellular plan. Now, again, if you have an unlimited plan, if this is fine, you know, then that's your discretion and you're good to go, right? But yeah, no, there's no smart logic that we're, you know, worried about in that case. You should have the same behavior that you would normally have there.
And then the last question I have for you is, when we started this entire talk, David was saying what he tells people to get them to have the best experience and the highest resolution, and is what, I don't know if you heard that part. I hope you did. If you did, is what he said still accurate?
David, if you don't mind, just repeating what your general guidance is.
Yeah, basically I said, I mean, everything full screen. You know, I mean, and on the back end, make sure HD is turned on. In the app, make sure HD is turned on. Make sure you're in your settings speaker view or your spotlighting, and then make sure that at least one person has you full screen.
What is the, so that's all generally good advice, but I'm wondering about that last point, because somebody looking at you at HD, right? If nobody was looking at you at HD, it wouldn't affect anybody else, right?
Right. So
it would just make number go up, right? But it wouldn't actually impact anybody else's experience besides that one person who's looking at them at HD.
Right. So I've got, hold on a second. I'm sorry. So I have you on my second Zoom monitor full screen, which means I'm receiving 1920 by 1080. If I were to take this out of full screen, move it to another monitor as a smaller, it drops down to 640 by 360. So I say to folks, you've got to have someone, if people want to see you in full screen, in HD, then they have to be asking for it by being full screen.
That's absolutely true. And I think spotlighting is a great way to do that, because then you don't have to ask them to go do something.
But if they have Zoom in a small little window, they're still not going to get the highest quality.
That's also true.
But they won't care because they can't see it.
Well, that's the theory, right? If you want them to get 1080p, if that's important, then that's what you need to do, right? Everybody needs to have Zoom as large as it can be on the largest screen that they have, with the video tiles as large as they can be, right? If you do those things, then rule of thumb, that's how you're going to get the highest quality in the receiver statistics. I think there's a debate to be made about whether or not the fact that you took let's say you have a 1080p screen, which can only render 1920 by 1080 pixels wide, and then you make Zoom a quarter of that on the screen. Is the fact that we're sending a 1080p video feed and putting it into effectively 360p worth of space a improvement that is so substantial that it's worth going through all of this rigmarole?
But
right?
wait,
I think
are
that's
you
a debate,
sending a
right?
1080p? Hold on, but it says that I'm just receiving.
No, I'm saying if we were to do that, if we were in a theoretical world where we just gave you everything all the time, would you have an appreciably better experience? There actually is some suggestion that by scaling, right, the higher resolution feed down to a smaller size, there actually is some improved sharpness, edges, stuff like that. There actually are some cases like that. Bitrate, of course, playing a factor in color fidelity and things of that nature. So actually, it can be better. But for the average person, would it make a meaningful impact over the other factors like consistent call quality, bandwidth optimizations, CPU optimizations, and decoding loads? I think that's where this question comes up.
Quick ISO question, and then Hasmukh, get you in here. So you said before that what's unique about ISO and the other tools that use the SDK API, I'm not sure which it is, sorry, that you can define what you want to pull. I'm not sure that that solves my problem. So for example, let's say I'm in a meeting, I'm using Ecamm, my virtual cam, I've got my speakers over here, I'm pulling them in, so I'm getting them highest quality. I'm producing my show, but then I'm sending my show into Zoom through my webcam, through my virtual camera. So yes, I grabbed all those feeds at 1080, but what I'm sending, because I'm not sending through ZoomISO, I'm only receiving through ZoomISO.
Yep.
Is
The
that
composited result is now a question. And this is where, again, webinar can come into play, because you have view control, right? You get to decide that they're in speaker view looking at this one video feed as large as you can make it, and assuming that they have their window large enough to be appreciable, then that would work in that case, right? Doing things like spotlighting that video feed in the other webinar to make sure that that's what everybody's looking at and it's in speaker view, also a helpful way to do that. And again, it goes back to that question of, well, do they also make their window large enough, right? But that goes into that, is it an appreciable difference, right, for most people based on the size of the window? I think I am going to have to run here. I apologize. I have a 1 o'clock meeting that I'm a little behind on. But my main takeaway on it would be to, as much as possible, don't obsess over the numbers, right? Obsess over the look and the experience as a whole. Because if we get caught up in the numbers, sometimes we actually degrade the experience for our audience by making them jump through too many hoops, or things that actually have a bigger impact on their ability to appreciate the event and the experience, versus chasing a number that is a part of user experience. It's a factor, though, among many things, including their comfort being there and their ability to have the bandwidth that they need and the optimizations. And Zoom puts a lot of thought into how to optimize that total experience, not just the number, which is where all these rules come from. So I hope this is helpful to you. I'll be sure to catch up after the fact. But great to see all of you.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Have a great weekend. Take care.
Take it easy.
Hasmukh, jump on in. We'll let's see. Dan will answer your question. Go ahead, Hasmukh.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is maybe indirectly related. Generally, in meetings, I kind of promote the fact that everybody has to have the cameras on. And usually in my country, the excuse is they switch the cameras off because they want to preserve bandwidth. They want to optimize their data. Even if they're on a corporate fiber backbone, they still use that stupid excuse. So my normal response is that Zoom is very efficient at managing bandwidth based on how it manages resolutions of your video, depending on what you're sending or receiving. And my contra retort is that Teams does not have an efficient mechanism of managing resolution. So Teams may be leveraging the best resolution and therefore is not efficient as Zoom is. Is that, so the question one is the excuse that they want to preserve bandwidth and that's why they have the cameras off. Is that a stupid argument, or is that?
Well, it does say bandwidth, doesn't it?
Well, I'd say it's like talking about water conservation. Do I turn the water off between rinsing things in the kitchen? Do I turn the water off and I pick something up and now I turn the water on and now I turn the water off? How much bandwidth are you saving if you turn your video off? And Hasmukh, the other question I would ask them is, well, if you're trying to conserve bandwidth, do you turn on in the view menu the stop incoming video? Because that's causing bandwidth too. So if you're going to stop your camera, stop everybody else's camera from coming in too, and then we'll be talking about the same thing.
Then you're in a webinar, right? I mean, then you're essentially doing a webinar. Everyone's camera's off except the speakers.
Yeah.
That's the most efficient.
But if they stop their incoming video, they won't see anybody's video.
Yeah. So it's still a stupid argument that they want to save bandwidth, and that's why they switch their cameras off. I think it, in general principle, that's the correct sort of response.
No, Roland disagrees. Roland, you want to jump in?
Yeah, it's not a stupid excuse, it's a reality of a situation and different situations. So I've had the situation where my internet is misbehaving, and because I still want to hear what is happening in a meeting, I will even, as Ray just said, turn off incoming video, that I don't even get the incoming video, so that I can just focus on the audio and at least listen and hear what is happening in the meeting, because that's, at the end of the day, is most important. Many times, especially if there's nothing being presented on screen. So you're going to turn it off. What you also find is that in many organizations, especially where persons are in office, it's even more in those cases where the tendency is to turn off the video. Because if that office is not providing enough bandwidth for everybody to have their video on and to be bringing in incoming video, it starts to become a problem, especially in offices. So I've actually found that persons who are remotely at home are more comfortable at times leaving on their video because it doesn't affect their experience. But once they're in many times in office, in organizations where Frank, for example, has locked down the pipe, you know, there is a little problem there, and they will tend to want to turn off. That's troubling Frank, but I know he's kind to his organization. But in many organizations, the IT persons don't like video, and will anything with video gets squeezed. And so many persons find that the experience with the video off is a lot better, and they get to hear the audio much better and experience the event. That's my take. That's why I say it's not us. Zoom, Teams, on the other hand, is an absolute disaster with it. The moment it seems that 2 or 3 persons within a location turns on their video, that meeting is downhill, especially within an organization. That's what I've experienced.
So, Roland, a question I have is, do you find that when you turn off your video that your audio is somehow improved? I was just experimenting here while people were talking, and I couldn't tell any difference between the video on and video off as far as the sound goes.
Once there is enough bandwidth, no. But let's say you're absolutely experiencing a situation where the bandwidth is just horrible and it's down, then Zoom is going to, at that point, pick the audio over video. And at that point, you don't want to be fighting with audio and video. I mean,
Great.
generally, like
Thank you.
for most of you guys and everybody who have the bandwidth is flowing, it's not a problem. But imagine somebody, as Andy was saying a while ago, on mobile cell data, where they're having a problem, and the cell data are depending on where they are, or even probably sometimes driving, you will experience that problem. Where at that point, you really just want to just have your video off and just be listening. And probably even, as Ray had said, turn off incoming video so that you can just focus on the audio.
So this has to do with the resources of the device that you're on. I'm assuming that if I'm having internet problems, intermittent internet failures, that turning off my video isn't going to make any difference, because if the internet fails, it fails. Is that your experience, Roland?
If the internet fails, it fails. But sometimes it doesn't fail. It's just that what you get into in terms of throughput is just so low that you have to make a choice about what it is that you want. Do you want to still trying to get 1080p? And it's the same thing that YouTube does, and does very, very efficiently. If you look at the profiles that YouTube will shrink, YouTube will take you from 4K right down to 240p, if that is what it takes to deliver to you. And I think a few years ago, they were down to as low as 144p. And actually, if you look in their encoding in settings, they will tell you that they will go that low in order to still keep the device, whatever device that you're getting. And by 144p means that the resolution is low, the bandwidth usage is low, and then pretty much any device that once you have that level, you'll still be able to watch something or at least listen.
That was a very interesting discussion. I'm wondering if the folks in the kitchen are up for an experiment. I'm wondering if we're looking at our statistics and everybody turns off their video, so there's no motions anymore. Is that going to change what we're sending? What do you think? You want to try it?
Are in what way,
If you
Lois?
if you turn off your
Just
video,
put-
then you won't be sending anything.
Right.
But let's try it.
Folks, only at the very highest level is this anything more than much ado about nothing. Isn't that what Andy said? Try not to get mired in this. Just do a good production. Have a good quality meeting.
But a lot of people, I mean, they do. Because what they're doing is they're showing keynotes, and they want people to be able to read what's
It's
on the
because they're
keynote.
doing crappy keynotes. They need.
And I talk about that also, absolutely. But
Wait. When you share your computer screen,
No.
can go past 1080p.
No. They're doing keynotes using like I'm doing here. They're as a virtual camera.
All right.
Yeah, you're right.
You're
That's-
circumventing Zoom's technology by doing this.
Exactly.
What I'm saying is that Zoom has taken this into account, and you can have a 4K upload and receive when it's a screen share.
You can. I would argue that that's a terrible experience for your
Right.
audience, because you disappear, and it's just now you're just staring at a PowerPoint.
Yeah, but people need to be able to see things that are legible when they're reading. Then
And you can read
don't
it
use
that way.
text-based materials
Exactly right.
if
I
you don't
agree.
want that issue.
Yes, agreed.
But I can guarantee you through years of experience that people are going to use text-based materials. And since they're going to do it anyways, it would be nice if they're legible. So that's why they bump up the bandwidth past 1080 to 4K.
Agreed. It's infuriating to me that I just had 3 workshops, and 2 of them, the person literally read their slides. It's just infuriating.
My favorite, I've been coaching people for years. My favorite thing when on stage, when some executive says, I know you're not going to be able to read this, but or see this, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. And then they turn their back to the audience and they read the list. I punch them.
All of this is very true, but you're not going to change the culture of, 7 million corporations and all the CEOs who think they're right about everything. And so
No.
why not make the
One
technology
at a
work?
time, Frank.
No, you're
one at a
right.
time.
Right. You're absolutely right that for those folks, they should use screen share. The folks that I'm dealing with, when I meet with them one-on-one, I can actually tell them, do it differently. And if I can show them that the quality is good enough, they will. And they'll present a better experience.
I understand both sides of the equation. I've spent
Yeah.
more than 25 years directing TV shows where people brought PowerPoint and just getting them to change the font size on their PowerPoint is an argument.
No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. And here's another piece of that puzzle. So when you're using a tool like Ecamm or vMix or any of them, we were talking before about the size of your Zoom windows. The size of your screen share, not in Zoom, but for some of these other things, matters also. So, for example, this is my desktop. Let me make this smaller. So, right, we don't need to see my email. It's not very exciting. If I share this into Ecamm at this size and then send it into Zoom, the quality, even if I were to zoom up, even if I were to zoom in, the quality is not going to be as good as if I have it full screen and then I'm sending that into Ecamm. Just like, where'd everyone go? Oh, just like Zoom can only send out what it is sent, these other tools also can only send out what they're sent. Sorry, Ray.
Yeah, no problem. The other scenario that I have run into that just baffles me is, I know not everybody can have 2 or 3 or 4 monitors or a room full of monitors or whatever. Most people really do just have a laptop, and they're lucky to have that in some cases. But what I've run into people who said, okay, I'm going to share my screen now, give me a minute. And they bring up their PowerPoint note view, which includes their notes and the upcoming slide. And then they share a portion of their screen, just the part that has the live view in it. And then they go, this is the way I have to work, but I don't know why people complain because it looks so bad on their end, because you're taking like maybe a 540p section of your screen and blowing it up to 1080. And honestly, it just looks horrible. Don't do that. Let me show you how to do that. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, show us.
Well, what I send to people out of my goodclicks.com, if you kind of look down through some of the user guides that I have a guide on presenting, and the presentation is really targeted specifically to PowerPoint on Zoom. And basically, I tell everybody, start your PowerPoint, start your screen share or your slideshow. My mouth wants to say both of those simultaneously. Start your slideshow. Then go to screen share and pick. You can find the presentation window, which is your full screen presentation. Share that. Zoom will send that out on your behalf. And then you can alt tab to whichever screen you want. You can pull up your notes screen and control everything from there with the confidence knowing that your full slides are going out to everybody else as you make the changes in your notes view. That
Absolutely
works every time if you follow the instructions. If you can't follow the instructions, I tell people just practice more. It will come naturally if you do it enough. I've done it enough that I don't have to think about it. But people who are brand new at it go, but I want to, nah, what you want to do is not going to show very well.
I just want to respond to something Roland said. It is presentation skills. I agree with you 100%. I'm not sure that when you do something like this and it doesn't look great, that it's a lack of not caring. I think that it's
Habit.
it's as Frank said, right? It's habit. We've been doing it this way forever. And I also think that it's, look, we all do this sort of for a living, and we're spending the past hour and a half trying to figure this out also. I'm going to go to Lois, Tony, and Roland, please.
Well, Ray just sort of stole my thunder because I definitely have been telling people, start open your, well, I don't use PowerPoint, but open your Keynote so you can see what you're doing. Then get into Zoom, open your share screen and share that portion of the screen that's just the slide, because you only want people to see the slide, not the rest of the stuff. And then, go back, wait, tell everybody when it's time, go and share, and it'll keep that thing. And I'm hearing you say not to do that because the resolution changes and it gets blurry, which it does. Only I don't see any way of being able to change the slides if you're not, I mean,
I can show you
if
how.
I can't see it, I can't change the slides.
Right. So let me, I'm going to pull up a Keynote here. By the way, I don't know if anyone was interested in this, but why is it? Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. I'm sorry. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. So I am bringing up a Keynote. Here we go. Where is my Keynote screen? I can't find it. Got way too much going on. Here it is.
It's very confusing to see your.
Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay, so here, let me just pull up a thing. Okay, so here's my presentation. Now this is in Keynote. We'll have to talk about how it works in PowerPoint. So what I can do is I can go to play, and now what it does for me is it opens up two windows. It's going to open up my presentation window, and I can make this as small as I want, but again, bear in mind that size matters. And then it opens up also my notes window with what slides are coming next, my speaker view. And if you don't see this, if I close that, if you go to the, if you go to the presentation and you hover on top here, in the top right, there's a box with 2 squares on it. That'll open it up. So now what I can do is I can go into Zoom. There's my screen share. Let me bring it down here so you can see it. And I can choose the presentation itself. I can go into share. So now you guys are seeing just the presentation, but I'm seeing my notes right over here. And as I go, and I can put anything I want on top of the presentation, it doesn't matter.
I want to point out, David, that we're receiving 902 by 508 pixels because you've got your screen, less than full screen.
So here we go, folks.
2208 by 14 or by 1242.
Right.
So you're already
Size,
bigger than
right.
1080. Yes.
Size matters. Yep, absolutely. Can I just share one stupid thing? So, and then Tony, you're up. So we just had the saddest day in the Jewish year. It's called Tisha B'Av. And it's like it remembers all the bad stuff that's happened. And on that day, we read a book called Keynote, K-I-N-O-T, which means dirges or elegies. And so I'm teaching a class to a bunch of rabbis later this month that's called Keynote, K-E-Y-N-O-T-E, not Keynote, K-I-N-O-T. Sorry. Tony, go for it.
Greetings, everyone. So I've been listening to everything, and I started out watching on YouTube and decided I want to come in and look at some of the things that were going on. I have a dilemma in that I think it's part of the conversation that we're having right now. So the house of worship that I work with, probably once every 2 months, we do, well, once every 2 months, I am the person that's responsible for the PowerPoint being shown during the service. I know the main problem is that I hate PowerPoint, and I don't want the house of worship to use it, but I've been overruled. So it is what's in place, and it is what they're going to use. So the first thing I'm asking is, when I'm using it, I'm getting a mixed bag. And the mixed bag is that there are times when it's working fine and I can see everything. And then other times it takes over. So I have a ICANN teleprompter, and I have a 24-inch monitor that I'm using in the service. And there are times when the PowerPoint takes over both screens. And I can't see anything. And sometimes when I'm doing this, and it's because, I'm doing it probably once in 2 months, sometimes even the side notes will be showing. It's not my PowerPoint, it's the PowerPoint that was developed for the church and the one that they use every Sunday. They just changed the information. So my question is, one, do I need to get over my objection to PowerPoint? Or two, is there something that I can do to get more familiar with it so that I don't have this inconsistency in terms of it working great, and then it's taking over both the teleprompter and my monitor. So I'm just asking.
Tony, Keynote, at least Keynote, I imagine PowerPoint also, but they will remember your last setting. So if I have my Keynote app down here, next time I open it, it'll stay there. But here's the key, and I think they think of this as a feature. If you go up to the play button, there is, thank you, Mike. there is an option for in full screen or in window. And if I just for a moment, if I jump back to this view and I change it to full screen and then I go play, it takes over everything. Now wait, where the hell did it go? I just lost it. There it is. It takes over every screen that's connected to this computer and it's unusable. It's absolutely unusable. So the key here is to make sure, at least in Keynote, but I know that they have this functionality in what do you call it? In PowerPoint also, to make sure that you change it to in window. And as soon as you do that, it'll just open up in a window that you can size to your heart's delight.
And you noticed he pressed escape to get out of that full screen too big thing. So you could try escape.
Maybe
but-
because you had
but
two
escape will-
monitors.
Right,
Yeah.
escape will take you out of presentation mode. That's the challenge with it, right?
Thank you.
I don't know, is it the same in PowerPoint? Anyone who uses PowerPoint?
Yeah, I mean, if you have two monitors in PowerPoint, it's going to go by default into presenter view, which it was doing, you know, if you have two. And so you have to just override that or have one monitor.
But is there a play in window option in PowerPoint? Do you know? Like so that it doesn't take over the whole monitor?
No,
There
In
isn't?
Windows, in Windows generally,
Not that
the reason that it's there to only go full screen is because very often people will plug an HDMI connector into the PC for a projector to project. So you really want the full piece to go there. Yeah, there's no way to actually do a presentation in a smaller section. You can do that with the notes window. I just tossed a real quick. Let me do a screen share here. And I'm picking the what is sort of the notes window here, and so that's the notes window, and people will occasionally take this upper left piece, and that's what they say. I just want to share a portion of my screen, and that can work. If I go to a new share and go to my editor view, I kind of refer to this as kind of the editor view. This is the the kind of the typical editor that you see, and there's multiple pieces over here. And what I ask people to do is then when they're actually getting ready to share, click the one that says PowerPoint slideshow, and in that case, it puts the full screen version up, and that's your 1080p.
Well, wait, so what did it just do to all of your screens? Can you see anything else now?
Sure. Let me.
I'm just curious. Like, does it take over? Holy God Almighty!
Yeah.
Boy, I like showing
where
off
was
my
it?
back behind the scenes view, but that's you
Yeah.
win. So
I always put the full screen view in the upper left. For whatever reason, the notes view comes down into the lower left, which I don't like, so I move it off. Very often, I will actually take that and make it like a half a screen so that I have other things to look at. But yeah, it's 3 full screens.
Oh, so sorry, it is taking up 3 full screens. So
Yeah.
So what you need then, you need 4 screens. Because if you have
Well, you
4
don't
screens,
necessarily need 4 screens, David. And the reason you don't necessarily need 4 screens is because the only one you as the presenter needs is this kind of the one on the upper right-hand corner that shows me what the current slide is and my notes.
No,
If you've shared the other one,
right.
that's the one that's going out to everybody.
No, but when I'm presenting, I like to see the Zoom gallery. And so if these tools take over all of my screens, I lose my view of Zoom.
But if I had dual monitor mode on, I would see a gallery of people as well. I just typically don't run in dual monitor.
If I take this into full, let me change this. So I've got main Zoom monitor, second Zoom monitor. Can you stop sharing for just a moment?
Yeah.
If I go into play in full screen and then I hit play, everything gets, now it disappeared because but if I want to be able to interact with it, the participants panel stays on top and the meeting chat stays on top, which is interesting. You still see Zoom. I don't see Zoom. That's what I'm saying. I want to be able to see Zoom. And I can't. It takes over my whole screen. So
Just FYI, there are tutorials. If you go and search for them, there are a bunch of different tutorials on using PowerPoint. And maybe that would be a place to start, is to just get comfortable with it.
absolutely. Tony.
So another question. So I also come into the same worship service meeting on my laptop, and my laptop primarily I'm using it just as the recorder for the service, local recording. My question is, should I use the laptop that I'm doing the recording as the device to do the PowerPoint? If it takes over the screen, then so be it.
It's interesting.
I would suggest not if you have an option, because the recording device, you want to make sure it's recording what you want it to be recording. And it's all, in my opinion, it's always safer to have the thing that you're doing stuff with totally separate from the thing over there, sitting there just recording it all.
Ray
Yeah,
can,
that's kind of what I was thinking. So
sorry. It says here that Ray can resize the presenter view and still see Zoom. Oh, well, Ray is special and I'm not, I guess. That's interesting, because I was thinking that it would be an interesting idea actually to play it on a different machine. That's what I do, by the way. So in my workflow, I don't even do it as a screen share, but I have a different computer that I use as my content machine, and I open stuff up. And I open stuff up there, both to lighten the load on my Zoom computer and the streaming computer, whatever, but also so that I can have it full screen and not have it impact. Lois, go ahead.
So you said that if you shared screen, you couldn't see the people, and that doesn't make any sense to me, because when I share the screen,
no, it's not if I share screen. Sorry, but thank you for asking me to clarify. If I'm doing a PowerPoint, it has nothing to do with sharing screen or not. If I'm doing a PowerPoint or a keynote in full screen, then it takes over all of my, at least for me, it takes over all my screens, and I can't see Zoom anymore. I can't see anything anymore.
Why would you use full screen? You can make the thing just about as big as full screen and still not choose full screen, and then you don't have the limitations.
No, I agree. I was just asking, he was saying that sometimes it takes over his computer, and for me at least, this is why it might do that. Ray, did you want to jump in and explain why yours is working and mine isn't?
My what is working?
You were able to size and still see Zoom?
Well, the full screen slideshow does take over a monitor, and if you actually have that overlaying your Zoom window, you could still move Zoom or that to another window, so that they're not physically, they're not nailed to each other. You can move them around if you have multiple monitors. I mean, I have a large number of windows technically open between email and Zoom, and there's just all kinds of stuff. And there's a layer management process there that you have to go, what do I want on top? It's like creating anything, what goes on top and what goes on the bottom.
See, I can't, because it takes all three of my screens into full screen. So, and if I want to get out of full screen to move things around, it cancels the screen share, the whatever you call it.
Yeah. Maybe Keynote, but PowerPoint I don't think does that.
You can
you can still Alt Tab into whatever window you want, and
Gotcha.
the other full screen ones will continue to be full screen underneath the.
Gotcha.
Windows.
So I wonder, and so you can't do that in on Mac with Keynote. All right. So that's a difference.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
May I have your permission to share the screen?
You don't even need to ask.
Oh, well, I will. I'm polite. So I've got a keynote open, and I think there's one that says just play the sucker as big as it can be. And then there's right next to it, there's one that says play in window. And that seems to be what I should be doing. I'm going to share this, and let me ask you if what you see is legible.
It certainly
Looks
is to me.
okay, doesn't it?
You're screen sharing, right?
I am screen sharing.
Let's see what we're receiving on the statistics end. So from screen sharing, oh, interesting. I'm only getting 1268 by 714 on the screen share. That's
Okay.
interesting.
Let me see if I can
Why do you
make
think that is?
window.
Yes,
That's
you
the
can make it
size of
bigger.
the window that she opened up.
That's what it is. Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
How's
Now
that?
it just jumped up. Yeah, now it's 1434 by 806.
Okay,
It's
well, that
jumping up a
is,
little higher.
well, 1434 is certainly high enough, isn't it? It looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, to me it does.
And I
It's
can,
better than 720.
and I
That's true.
can go and I can change my slides, because on the side, I still have my list of slides. So
Sorry,
it's
you said this
looking
is
okay.
Keynote or PowerPoint?
this is Keynote.
Keynote.
I'm on
Right,
a
so you're
Mac,
playing
I
in window.
always use
Exactly.
Keynote.
You're playing in window. That's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah,
Right.
okay. I will
Yeah.
stop sharing now.
You just have to know not to make that window too small, or you will
Right.
be pixelated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Frank and Tony.
So maybe Lois doesn't care, maybe she does. Being legible isn't the only consideration. If you plan on doing any video editing, 1402 by some other weird number is not going to make the video editor very happy. You want to be using sizes that are HD. So you're going to either want 1280 by 720 or you're going to want 1920 by 1080. So just dragging it to something is not a process I would undertake.
Well, if I wanted to do a video, I wouldn't be sharing on Zoom, would I? I mean,
no,
I
no, no.
Sure,
be
lots
doing-
of people are sharing
sharing
live,
at
and
home.
lots of people share live, and then they're also recording, and then they edit the
Right.
recording of the
Edit
meeting
afterward.
later.
It's a
But
really
the
good
Zoom
point.
recording would be what you're seeing, not what.
You're gonna get black bars probably if you've got a group HD situation and you're showing content that's less than HD. You're gonna get black bars.
Did you see black bars when you were looking at it?
No, but I'm not looking at the recording.
Doesn't the recording record what's on your screen?
No, not necessarily.
No.
Not full screen. Recording will actually produce an MP4 of your screen share that is the largest screen share shared during the entire session. So if
So
someone has a
whoever's looking
4K
at it.
monitor, if someone has a 4K monitor, it will come out in 4K, whatever resolution that was, height and width. And if you have something that's smaller, it will tuck it typically, I think, down in the lower right-hand corner of that space.
Well, I'm going to have to try that after you guys leave, and I'll check it out.
The other thing I would say to add a little bit to what Frank said is that if I have a client who does something like that, and they're either going to do something odd, I generally request from them, if I'm going to do some video editing to create some evergreen content, I ask them to send me the presentation and I re-render the presentation in 1080. And I use that in the editing process.
You can also export the slides as PNGs from Microsoft PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Tony.
So, based on everything that has been shared, I'm wondering, what about me using an iPad to do the PowerPoint sharing? And I just saw your face, David. So
No,
Okay.
only because if you're on a 1080p plan, it drops it to 720. That was the whole. That's all.
Yeah. Well, in all fairness, in my case, because of the house of worship, we have probably 4 people that are on phones. We have probably, I'm going to say 3 people that are on some type of tablet. So on our best days, we might be getting 340. So I was just thinking about a way in which I didn't compromise my recording laptop for the PowerPoint, because it's frustrating for me, and I know that it shouldn't be, but I want it to work the way it's supposed to work, and I want to be able to see everything that's going on in the meeting. So now that you have frowned on the
Well,
iPad,
no, wait a second. So let me show you what I do. Let me show you what I do, because I do use an iPad, right? So you can see up here, this is my iPad view, and I open Keynote, thank you. And I open Keynote on my iPad, and I've got the presentation down here. So I go into present in who's he, what's it, in window, and then I click on the little kind of, looks like a phone up at the top there. Oh, sorry, it's looking for my other computer. I opened it on the wrong computer. Give me a moment, because I always do this from my other computer. I'm going to do this, and okay. So now I'm opening this up, and I'll just go ahead and play. So now on my, oh, now you can't see it, hold on. But so now on my iPad, I've got the play button. If I click play, now I can control the keynote from my iPad. I've got all my speaker notes. I don't have any notes on this one. Oh, there you go. But, and it's controlling the keynote on my Mac, but all the controls are now on my iPad. My notes, I just click it to move forward, and it shows, it shows me the next scene. I can change my view, current and next, if I want to do that. I can change this to next and notes.
Is this like having a second monitor, or are you in the meeting twice?
No, I'm not.
Twice.
No. So what
It's a second monitor.
It's not even a second monitor. So this is just functionality built into Keynote. So if you open a Keynote on your Mac, and then you open the Keynote app on your iPad, and you're on the same Wi-Fi, you can click on this little, I don't know how to describe this, little camera phone thing up here, and it's just built in. You can control the slideshow from your iPad.
So it's Mac only.
Correct. This is Mac only. So
Okay.
so I do use the iPad, but that's how I use it.
okay. I'm thinking now that it looks like my solution is going to have to be, I have a basic Mac Mini that I use for nothing but conversations with Tony Mobley. So I'm thinking that maybe I'll use that as the PowerPoint machine for House of Worship. And then that way I can look at it on my ATEM Mini output monitor. And then I'll be able to make sure that the PowerPoint is moving the way it should be in the Zoom meeting, and it won't affect my other screens. That's the only thing I can think of at this point, in order to get what I'm trying to get at.
And Tony, you're also displaying that live on a screen somewhere in the House of Worship, correct?
No, we're totally virtual.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
We're totally virtual right now. If part of the reason I wanted to come in today, I wanted to talk about we're actually at some point very soon going to be doing building a building, and I wanted to ask the community about what are some of the things that need to be in place as far as the infrastructure and the conversation with the architect, because there is a desire to make sure that we're in person and also virtual. And so I wanted to sort of pick you guys' brains for, what should be a part of the conversation, if nothing but, the laying of fiber or whatever. but we can have that conversation at another time. But yeah, I'm trying to tweak, um, and I think that part of it is because I do it so infrequently. I never know when I'm, going to be asked to do it. I just happen to know that this coming Sunday that I will have to do it, and I almost cringe every time because I don't know what I'm going to get, in terms of it showing, and I know that I'm being. Let me say it this way: the parishioners probably don't care as far as what's showing and that kind of thing, and that's but it bothers me that it's not as good as it could be or as it should be, and I'm always trying to.
And by the way, Tony, that what Lois said before about it shouldn't, if you're asking in Zoom for, if your window is small and you're not requesting the highest definition, it shouldn't matter that you're not getting it. But what you just said is what I encounter all the time with folks that are using these tools, and that is that their concern is not what people want. It's what they are concerned, you are concerned that you're not sharing the highest quality, even if it doesn't really matter because the recipient isn't asking for it. It still bothers us as content creators or as producers that we're not sending the highest quality. So you just kind of said it perfectly. Lois and Mike, you want to jump? Mike, you had your hand up before. I don't know if you want to jump in again, but Lois, go ahead, please.
So a couple of things. One is, Tony, when you're trying to figure out how to do it, how it's going to look, the test kitchen is perhaps not the best place to do it, but you've got the computer that you're going to use to show your slideshow. You've got the computer that you're going to use to record with. All you need is one other person to join a meeting, and then you can try it. You can do it. You can have them telling you what it looks like, or maybe they're going to be sitting in the same room with you and they can show you their screen. I don't know. But that's really the only way you will be comfortable knowing what's going to go out there. Because when you are sharing screen, what you see is not what they see. And so, yeah. Anyway, so other than that, you were talking about having a building built and getting a thing. Now, I'm at our Quaker meeting here. We have people in the room now and people on Zoom joining the meeting. And I can tell you that since you're doing the Zoom only part, you got it 90% covered already. Only thing I would have them do in the meeting house is put a strong internet connection so that whatever router you're plugging into is never going to give you a weak signal. And then the other thing that we did is we tried, when we first started, we tried projecting onto a screen on the end wall so that it was big and people could see this big thing up there, and then you could see people's faces, and that wasn't comfortable. What we found was the most comfortable. Now, I don't know about your church. In our Quaker meeting, everybody sits in a circle. So what we did is we just removed a few chairs from one part of that circle and put a little rolling cart, big rolling cart, that has on it a monitor. And the monitor is a nice big size, and it's a size where when people are in the Zoom meeting and you got all those little squares, on the monitor you can see all those little squares. When someone is going to speak, the size that it shows on that monitor is a head size. So it's within this circle. When someone speaks from online, you see them as if you were looking across the room and there was a person there right there. And so the size of the image of the person who's speaking, I think, is probably one of the most important things. And then the other is, of course, sound. But you've been doing this for so long, you've got the sound nailed. Anyway, if you ever want to talk to me, give me a call. I'll be happy to chat with you about what we did and what we tried and what we failed at.
Thank you, Lois. I
What you
appreciate
just
that.
described, Lois, there's a rabbi up in I think it's Canada. He built the what did he call it, a ZoomOSC or something, and it was sort of exactly that. It was to allow the Zoom participant, whoever the speaker was, to just sit in the circle and to not be this huge person up on a big screen, but to just be sort of a normal head size. Yeah, it's a beautiful way to approach it.
Hey, Tony, let me ask you two kind of small but important questions depending on the answer. One is, do you have any people in your potentially in-person congregation that would be either visually or auditorily impaired? And the other question I would have to go along with that is, do you think you might have any people for whom English is not their first language?
No one is at this time, no one is non-English speaker. Visually impaired, there might be several people that have vision impairment. The congregation for this probably make you laugh. I'm kind of a youngster in terms of the congregation, and I'm 66. So
I've heard that about you, Tony.
yeah. So, well, I'll just share with the pastor's 94 years old. She's not actually, she really is pastor emeritus, but she's 94. And so most of the ministers are closer to her age. So when the pandemic happened, the building became, the building was in disrepair, and it made it expedient that we continue worship services on Zoom or on virtual experience. We started out with a lot of different platforms and ended up with Zoom, thanks to Zoom Test Kitchen and office hours. The challenge that I have is that, and without trying to be religious, it's just, I just feel like if I am trying to do something for God, that it ought to be the best that it should be. And when it comes to other things, people go way beyond the call of duty, and they are not, claiming to be in worship. And so the frustration that I have is that there are, I would say that the people are happy with it being as it is. And I'm constantly pushing the envelope in order to get better. And so I've learned to pull back, and I pull back, and every now and then I'll throw something out there and see if they like it. But I know that, and this is, I'm getting to the whole thing about the building. So they are extremely happy that they were able to stay engaged with one another because of the Zoom services, but they miss the interaction.
Yeah.
They miss the in-person, but they have discovered, because they have now had services that have been on YouTube. They have now had people who have come in from different places throughout the world or all over the country. And so this small church in a small city, 90 miles away from where I live, is able to impact in a way that they never thought that they could impact before.
Yes.
So they have bought into, yes, we desire to be with one another in the house of worship. But at the same time, because we have bitten from the fruit of being exposed to people around the world having an opportunity to interact with us, they want to continue hybrid service. So that was the reason why I was asking the question. But I want to say I have to be strategic in the way in which I share information, because the value that I would put in infrastructure, like say, I said, well, we want to have at least 2 PTZ cameras that are high quality in the sanctuary, so that the people that are online can actually feel as if they are a part of the service. Well, there may not be an interest in investing in, high quality PTZ cameras. Can we just get a camera that's going to work? So there is this back and forth dynamic that goes on. So I kind of know part of what needs to happen, but I wanted to sort of pick the brains of this community to say, what can I do ahead of time to actually sort of prepare them for, what we need to do in order to do this hybrid thing in a high quality way.
Right.
And then the other piece to it is too. So Rabbi David Paskin knows this very well, that we have done actual Christian performances in actual theaters.
Yes.
And so, renting a theater and creating all of the documentation and everything and all of that, they love it. They love it. But one of the things that they said was, now when we build this new building, we want to not have to go out and rent,
Yes.
these theaters. We want in the theater, we want in the house of worship, the capacity to be able to have these live Christian performances in the worship place. So then that tweaks it even more. So you just can't have, just a church building that you are streaming. If you intend to be able to have actual theatrical worship, performance worship services. So it's a kind of complex thing. And I'm just be transparent and say that part of me is pushing the envelope technology wise so that we can try to pull in some of the younger
Yes.
former
Yeah.
parishioners,
That's
so that this thing of it being attractive and interesting to people who would embrace, I'm going to stop talking, but I have an experience that I had, because I a lot of people don't know that, but I've been sick since the beginning of this year and recently have started to actually really fully recover. And I had an exchange with the nurse that visits me, and we were talking about houses of worship, and she was sharing what her church was, and she showed me her church. And she said to me that she understands everything I was saying about the importance of doing, the best you can in terms of virtue. But she was frustrated because the music in her worship services is so fantastic in the church. But when the people are watching and listening online, it doesn't sound anywhere near that good. And so we were just going back and forth and back and forth about it. And she said, but she said, you'll appreciate this. She said they had been renting a warehouse for 20 years. And she said that the owner of the building made the decision that she was no longer going to be renting the property. She wanted to sell it. And she said that she was going to give them a chance to purchase it. And the pastor said, you know, in the meetings with the leadership of the church, that that's not what I want to do. I don't want us to be in debt. I don't want us to have a mortgage. Blah, 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 blah. And so he said, that next Sunday, he talked to the congregation. He said, we are in a position now where we have to make some decisions about whether we're going to stay in this location or do something else. And I'm just asking people to pray. That's all he said. And then he said, or she told me, she said 2 days later, a person contacted the pastor and said, I don't know how much money you need, but I'm giving you $500,000 because this person who never came to the building, but was watching the service online, made the decision that he was just going to give. He heard what the pastor said. Pastor didn't go into any details. He just gave him $500,000. They only needed $400,000. And so she shared that with me, and that reinforced for me the importance of why you want to do your best. And so that's why, you know, I keep pushing. It's not about the fact that, you know, they got the money. The important thing for me is that when you call yourself doing evangelism, whatever the religion is, you always want to present the very best, because first impressions matter. And, you know, as Alex Lindsay says all the time, the way you present yourself on video is like putting on that good suit. And I believe that. And so I apologize for going on and like that, but
No,
I hope
Tony,
I answered the question.
No worries,
it,
Tony.
it's great to hear you, and you're looking good, I have to say. I've only known a little bit about your last year or so, and I'm very, very happy to see you doing well. The reason I asked you a little bit about both the audio and visual and languages is there's a way in Zoom really to allow people in the service who might have a phone or an iPad to put it in what is referred to as companion mode, not like the companion stream deck, but put it in companion mode where it can either have video or audio. They could see language translations and that sort of thing. So there's some capability there to continue to make the services viewable and usable for people on site as well as remote. And then the other thing I was going to bring up, I'm so glad you're aware of this. Young people love to come to you know whatever religion there is and get involved with cameras and get involved in all that sort of stuff and in productions. I was going to do take part in a hybrid event that occurred up in New York, and the nursing organization that contacted me said, Ray, we want you to do this hybrid thing. I said, I don't do hybrid. And they said, no, we really want you to do hybrid because the venue gave us a $60,000 price tag to do the event. I said, well, okay, I tell you what, I'll help you out, but you have to find a camera crew. And they were all, oh, you know, we don't know anybody. And I said, no, wait. Let me tell you who does this really, really well. It's church groups, young people in church groups. And one of them, they said, I've got a nephew that does this at a church 60 miles away from the venue. And so they agreed to come kids to basically bring their 3 Blackmagic cameras and an ATEM switcher and a computer and did all of that. They brought that equipment in there and they did a fantastic job making that hybrid event, the on-site part. And just watch some videos of basically kids. I mean, most of them are younger, and the reason that I bring all of that up really is because I know in your heart, Tony, and anybody in any church group, growth is an important factor, and you need a longevity, and you need a pipeline of younger voices and younger people, and to support everybody that's in the crowd. And I think if you sort of look towards that a little bit and talk to, I mean, I'm no Alex Lindsay. I'm way farther in the basement than that when it comes to audio and video. But talk to people and get whatever you can to create a place that attracts many people, and sort of if you build it, they will come. They'll hear about the good stuff that you're doing, and we'll fill in the gaps for you.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Mm.
And Tony, yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. That you're back on the Zoom test kitchen. We'll go to Lois, and then I'll give you my comments on how I've helped churches in the past start from scratch.
So
Go ahead, Lois.
Tony, you've been to church. I can tell that. I've been to church too. And in our Quaker meeting, as I say, we sit in a circle. I go in, I sit down, and I can see the people nearby me. I can see the back of the heads of the people in the pew in front of me. But if somebody gets up to minister, which in our service, anybody can just stand up and speak. And I may or may not be able to hear them very well. They might be way across the room. And what I find is on the Zoom meeting, we have a really good microphone sitting in right in front of the camera and everything. It's one of these Yeti Nanos. And I can hear them much better on Zoom than I can when I'm in person. Oh, that's nice. And when I'm on Zoom, which is my preferred method of worshiping now, I can see all the other people on Zoom because everybody's got their little space. And then there's one space that is one camera pointed at the meeting room. Now, the people who don't like to be on camera, they sit in the edges where the camera can't see them. And everybody else is sitting there. And the camera is terrible quality. I mean, it is horrible. They bought a camera, it was really cheap. But it's there and it shows the room, and I know these people because I worship with them all the time. So I can tell who's who just by what they're wearing, what they look like, that sort of thing. I don't have any close-ups. I don't have any really good details, but it's enough for me to see them. It's enough for me to know who they are. And that's all I need in order to worship with them. So when you're saying you want to make it wonderful, understand that if you were in the room and there was no Zoom, it might not be wonderful for everybody. You still might have hard time hearing and things. So I would encourage you not to get stuck on making it perfect, but make it acceptable. We looked at the possibility of having a PTZ in the room, and it was not comfortable for the congregants because something is moving and zooming, and all of a sudden their face is getting bigger on the screen, and as they felt out of control. The people in the room did not feel like they could know what was going to happen because somebody else was moving that thing around over there. And so I encourage you not to try and do any motion when you're in that sort of situation, so the people in the room will be comfortable. And if you have 2 cameras and two little screens on the Zoom window, one from the left side, one from the right side, I don't know how big your place is. But I encourage you to think more about the prayer that you want to share than the technology. Because for us, at least, it's much more important. Anyway, that's my spiel.
I
Excellent.
hear you. I hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, so Tony, here's are some of my thoughts. And again, as many of the people in the Zoom Test Engine know, this is, again, I'm at the distributor level of offering products to our dealers in Canada. So, and again, there's been many times when dealers and churches have actually come directly to us and have said, Mike, what would you do if you had a brand new building? I would say, well, the first thing that I would be questioning is, so how much budget is actually going to be allocated in the build to technology? That will be most important, because now you know that, okay, I've got X amount of dollars, and in X amount of dollars, I've got to do whatever I can afford at the time to actually be able to build this building or get this building to be church worthy, functional, so that the capabilities of the church and the pastor and every what the congregation actually wants as an end result to actually happen. So example would be, audio, obviously, video, obviously. Now, in building, video. Now, out of building, video, and I'll explain difference there. So that would be more Zoom related. So again, as Lois was talking about, being able to hear the people appropriately that are going to be speaking. So again, is there going to be podiums? Are there not going to be podiums? Are people going to be wearing wireless microphones? Not wireless microphones. Which means if it's not wireless, that means that people have to go up to where the microphone is and be able to talk. So if that's okay, then good. The cost then becomes less. But as soon as you get into the wireless world, then of course your cost will double. It is what it is. As far as you were mentioning cameras and you were thinking PTZ, and Lois was mentioning again, the potential of motion sickness and such, she's right. So again, it's bad to have one PTZ camera. You easily need two, if not three, depending on how large the venue. You could easily go into four, possibly five. Again, it all comes down to, again, if you've already rented theaters and the church is basically going to turn themselves into a theater format or a theater size that could hold a couple of thousand people, then you easily have to take into consideration all the different angles of the, and I'll use the terminology, stage, and all the different possibilities that the church will now be able to do. Because again, not only could you are going to use this on Sundays or whenever you actually have your church events weekly, you could also rent out that venue during the week to also be additional money that could be coming in to the church, and have different events on the platform / stage, depending on depending on your religion. Some people classify it as a platform, some people call it an altar, some people call it a stage. So it'll all depend on the different your faith and what is being delivered at the church. So many Christian churches will have a stage where that stage will be where the pastor will be able to walk back and forth on the stage and will be wearing a wireless microphone in most cases. So again, you will make sure that at least the pastor has a wireless microphone. Now, being able to future-proof that is also the important thing of the building, which means that not necessarily will you buy all the technology initially, but if you're physically building the new building and you're physically having the walls open in that building when you're building it, then it is best to over cable the building already, anticipating that in the future, you will now have the capabilities of X, Y, and Z in certain locations within the building. Example, in the foyer coming into the church, you may want to have TV. What I would do initially, if you could not afford to have a TV, let's say as a basic example, as you walk in the foyer, before you actually enter into the church, to actually pre-wire so that the TV is ready to go there when the budget comes down the road, so you can actually put the TV there physically, right? So there's a lot of, and again, this you'll work with your electricians, and this would be stuff that you would have to work with your actual builder itself of the building, so that they will pre-spec everything in there for you. Because again, the best thing is, and this is a very small example of making sure the TV's got its own little power, make sure that all the connectors are in the wall that you will need to bring from XYZ location back to the TV so that you can now show what's going to be on this TV. So there is a bit of planning that you may want to do. And again, everything is contingent on this, what is Tony being given as a budget when we're building the building? And if they want, and it's also going to have to be, okay, if you're only going to give me X budget, then you will have to set your expectations of the church. So your pastor and all the committee, let's call it, or board, or however you deal, or however the church is actually managed, you will basically have to present to them, okay, you're giving me this, I can give you that initially, but I will future-proof it so that I'm wiring this, I'm wiring that, I'm wiring this, I'm wiring that, so that you down the road can give me additional funding so that I can actually add this, add that, add this component down the road with very minimal to no additional cost, because the wiring and everything is already in the wall, which could potentially cost you hundreds of dollars to reopen the wall to put that in afterwards, after the building is built. So if you're building it from a frame, then I would definitely suggest you to make sure that you ideally future-proof the building as much as possible now, while the building is going to have itself open, because the sooner it gets closed down, the more expensive it becomes, because the more it'll cost you to open back up again. And I'll stop there for now, Tony, so you can ask me questions. I'm pretty sure you have a few from that.
Yeah, recently, I'm going to say in the last probably 6 months, the actual old location has been demolished. And so at some point in the near future, there's a lot of conversations going on right now with Architect about what we're going to be doing. But it's at the point where we're just, right at this point, just talking about celebrating the groundbreaking services. So we're definitely not there, but I'm asking questions ahead of time to try to get in front of a lot of, potential things that might happen. So.
Right.
Lois, I thank you so much for your, and I want Lois to know that I heard her very clearly in what she was saying.
Yeah. Lois, did you want to add?
I think two things. One is the size of the facility is going to be key to how you do it. Mike was talking about huge things. Ours is a little tiny thing. We have, one room for worship, and we have a social room and a couple of bathrooms. That's it. So the size of the facility makes a big difference in what you want to try to do. But I think most importantly, the makeup of your congregation is going to determine a lot about that. I hope you have a good committee working with you on planning the building and things like that? Because you said something about dealing, having it set up so that you could do stage shows, you know. Wow. So that would require a little more thinking. There's some folks on after hours and office hours that do commercial work with stages and set up stages in the strangest places. So, you know, you could check it out with them. Maybe go on Discord and put a question about anybody have experience with doing a theater production in a church, and what problems have you found? So anyway, good luck. I gotta go, but boy, it was good
Thank you,
to see
Lois.
you, Tony.
Good to be
Thanks,
seen.
Lois. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
Sony, yeah, again, definitely, you know, if you do have questions with related to this is in my wheelhouse. You know, setting up events is a no-brainer for me. Doing live production is not a no-brainer for me as well. But again, it is a different animal than being in a studio, because that is most important to understand, that there's a big difference between being set up in a studio versus being set up in a venue. It is entirely different technology. There's some overlap of technology. So as an example is Aperture has very limited to no footprint in a church environment, where you would have to go into more concert lighting examples, right? So again, there is different technologies. So there is different, a live venue location is not a studio. So I just want to make sure that that's fully understood as well. There's different technology that is used in place when it comes to venues. If you do expect to have, let's say, related Christian bands that might come into your venue, as an example, there may be specific requirements that the band will have, or they will not play in the venue. That is normal. Those are called riders. And certain bands won't perform there unless XYZ items are available at the venue, or they'll just go no thank you and perform elsewhere. So again, it really comes down to, and again, it's not to scare you and it's not to discourage you. It is more to make sure that you understand that it can get quite complex very easily and quite expensive very easily, but it also can be quite well done. And also the church facility as a facility, which is also important too, could actually make a lot of additional revenue during the days that is not being utilized. James, go ahead.
Thank you for that.
Sorry,
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem, Tony.
Sorry, I kind of just had to be off camera while you're
Yeah, go
streaming,
ahead, James.
all that kind of stuff, because some people have to work for a living.
Go ahead, James.
I have a question, and I can see we have a whole host of people here to answer the question. But Mike,
go ahead.
you might just be the person.
Yeah.
Language translations, right? And I had this simple question of, like, there's some Italian people that have interviews in Italian.
Yep.
They're part of films that I really appreciated. They're no longer around, but they were never transcribed in YouTube, so they don't have closed captions on them. So you
Right.
can use the transcribe to English. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, you know something about language translations, right? I know Robert's kind of the guy, but
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So you're looking to take a video. Let me paraphrase what I think you're going to ask me. You want to take a video that you have access to and you want it to be translated to English. Now, do you want the audio to be its own different channel, or are we talking just translated in closed captioning?
We're just talking simplicity, that I'm not downloading these to send someplace else or anything. I just want to know what they're saying. And so I'm just trying to figure out the simplest way for me is not to learn Italian.
Right.
So, can I, like you see these apps on these phones where you go to another country and you say, where's the bathroom? And then it says, oh, the skavoo, like whatever.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Now, I was thinking first, oh, I could use Google Meet. It's a Google product. They translate their thing. So I could play the video in Google Meet, except Italian is not one of the languages that they will translate.
Okay. Yeah. Again, it comes down to the transcribing service that you are now using, right? So again, if this is just a personal thing, there's one, that you'd be more or less looking for something that would do its best in AI. That would actually, you would basically want to do a quick Google search to actually see if there's any AI law, LLM type sites that are actually doing voice and video, I guess, in this particular point, to transcribe it for you personally. If you're doing it on a corporate scenario where it's corporately done, that's a different scenario because there are paid services that I could recommend you to.
Right. And as I said, this is just simply, like I just want to know if say, Alan, well, like whatever it is, because I did find out one thing interesting in one where they were talking in, it was funny, they were talking in French. So it was a French, and the person didn't know French as much as Italian. So every now and then they would do a Italian word in the transcript, because it'd be like, how do you say, this word?
Okay. So it's not only strictly Italian now. We're talking that it might actually be a mixed language within the audio track.
This was one video I had seen, and so it was like, I think the thing is, like in YouTube, like if you see one video, and kind of some of its parameters, right? Then they go, oh, maybe this person would be interested in seeing another video, right? And so the one video I did watch was like this person who was being interviewed in French, and so, oh, this person's willing to watch videos that are not in English,
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
so it just gave me a whole bunch of other ones, and I'm like, oh wow, these would be interesting because, maybe there's something I would learn. And I did learn something very interesting. Are we still online? Yeah.
Yeah.
Live streaming.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, I don't want to ruin any like 1960 film on anyone, so they learn, That was kind of funny. Come on, Tony. That was funny. Tony should laugh to that.
we were trying to, James, again, we're not seeing the visual, so we didn't know that it was funny. Okay, continue.
No, I can't, but I just learned something interesting about this film. It's like there's and I'll tell you, it's films by Michelangelo Antonioni. If anyone knows, but they were like in 1960, 62, 63, like that kind of time period. And most of the people have passed away. Actually, one of the actors just passed away this past week. Alan Delon, or I don't know how to say his name, but he's a famous French actor, I think. But
Okay. Yeah.
anyways, so yeah, I mean, I didn't think about like, so if with these and I don't know like if my chat GPT on the Mac where you can put get from your microphone, does that work in Italian? I don't know.
Good question. I know that in Google, and again, I don't know about Italian, but I do know that in Google, you could actually, there was, I don't believe that that software is being maintained anymore as open source, but there was basically if you could actually have your Google Chrome web browser log in to sorry, I'm just trying to remember the actual software. The software basically would listen to your sound card and would actually then translate what it heard on the sound card into closed captioning live. Now, was it accurate? 80-ish, 90-ish percent. Notice I'm not saying 100%. So there is always going to be that bit of, if you understand that 100% translation will not happen without using a professional service that you're worth paying for, that they will double and triple check it. And chances are the person that will actually be listening to the audio will actually be typing the actual English translation into the actual subtitle field or the SRT field or SRT file or insert VTT, I believe is the other one. But again, my generic suggestion would be to check out and see if there's any AI based free websites that are offering the service. I know AI, when it comes to, there's a lot of ramping up that's been going on lately in the video and audio world when it comes to AI, to be able to, especially something fairly simple as you are asking. Again, I don't know specifically the languages choices because that is going to be a lot more. But basically, they are GPTs. For, if James, in your sake, where you're saying Chat GPT, these would actually be GPTs, but they're basically they're websites that have built their own LLMs, which are basically baby Chat GPTs, to do specific tests. And that's basically what you're looking for right now. Is if I give you this YouTube share link of the video, can you actually make me the, even the, in a document, let's say in a PDF or even a doc file or whatever, spit out in X language this. You never know what you might get.
Right. It's like, I do pay for that slightly added, Chat GPT, $20.
Right.
So I mean, free is relative, right?
Right. Yeah. So what I would do is I would look up in their showcase. There's a lot of GPTs on the paid ChatGPT 4.0 section that are being generated and being made quite often, regularly. And I would suggest taking a look in there. And you never know what you might find in there, because there could be something just sitting there waiting for you too. And again, not necessarily would you be able to Google what GPTs are available in the ChatGPT system. They just don't allow that to be external, to be searched, part of your search results in Google.
And I'll just say, just to relate this back to our Zoom Touch Kitchen, Zoom does do some translation stuff, so that's kind of how I this. But
now, in theory, if you really wanted to go down that road, you could actually share it in a Zoom meeting and see if the closed captioning telling it to be in English and see if it actually will do half a decent job. You never know what you might get there.
Right.
Again, you won't necessarily get the audio version of it, but you'll definitely potentially could get the actual closed captioning of it.
Right.
In
And
theory.
it's not like kind of like very specific. This needs to be correct. You know, I'm quoting these filmmakers and using my thesis on Leclerc, which is the best film ever. Anyways, which is the eclipse in English.
Right. Very cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody's being very quiet with me right now, and I know we still got 4 people watching us on YouTube. So I will say bye to everybody on YouTube, and we're going to go into something that David and I have sort of coined called the living room. We're done in the kitchen now. We're heading to the living room. Where we're going to relax and just talk amongst ourselves. Shall we call it post show? Some other shows. So don't forget, everybody, every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and come check us out. And we're here to do and work in the kitchen all the time. And if you want us to break Zoom, we do a good job of breaking it. Ask David. Okay. So for next week, Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern, check us out. And we will see you.